Welcome back, everyone, back to Global Supply Chain Summit 2021. In this session, the panelists will discuss the importance of real-time supply chain visibility, the ways in which companies can maximize the logistics productivity, and the various business model to deploy to achieve this visibility. Happy to invite Dr. K. Ganesh, Global Lead, Manufacturing and Supply Chain, Senior Knowledge Expert, McKinsey & Company, and Session Chairman to lead this session. Dr. K. Ganesh is a Senior Knowledge Expert, Global Lead of Manufacturing and Supply Chain Management, Center of Competence and Delivery Leader at McKinsey & Company, Chennai, India. He is specialized in logistics and supply chain transformation for various industry verticals. He has graduated in production engineering with the university first rank and pursued his master's degree in industrial engineering at NIT Trichy with college first. He did his PhD in supply chain at IIT Madras. He's having total 16 plus years of research and consulting experience. He has published more than 150 papers in leading international journals and written 11 plus international books. He is in editorial board for 5 international journals and reviewer board for 10 plus renowned international journals. It's really my pleasure to invite Dr. Ganesh to lead the session as session chair. Over to Dr. Ganesh. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Banu. Thanks a lot. Very good. I think very glad to be here. At least, we are today in a global supply chain summit. We actually kicked off the overall conference in the morning with Anish was kind of, there was a partner from McKinsey who actually come and share his thoughts. Also, we have actually had another session where from Japan, we had Yoshi who actually come and share the overall Asia trends and with a fantastic topic of profit maximization, right? How do we reimagine the profit? Now we are in a session where very, very important session. I think it's a need of the hour for sure, right? How do we kind of maximize the logistics productivity, which is very vital for every firm today. And there are a lot of traditional ways in which we can do it, but we are now looking at real-time visibility, right? So we can bring the new DNA, which is a digital analytics, right? So the DNA has changed now, the digital analytics, which is called new DNA, with the real-time digital supply chain visibility, how we kind of bring this maximization. That's the topic we are in. We have actually a esteemed panel members who comes with a very rich experience. I think I've given a sheet. This will go for half an hour to read, but I'll try to keep it short in terms of intro. But I think it's going to be a fantastic experience for everyone. The flow is this. I'll probably take another 2 minutes to introduce the complete panel members. Then we'll have take a liberty to call Ajay Shatru as AJ. Ms. AJ will actually share his thoughts as a presentation mode. Then we actually get into a panel discussions, right? At any point of time, you have any questions, please use our chat mode. Please don't hesitate to ask any challenging question to us. I think it's a time to kind of learn, and we also actually wanted to kind of learn few things from your side. So please ask questions which actually good for both the sides. And if any specific questions to any specific panel member, you can mention the name. Or if you want to answer any of the panel member, then I can give it to the panel to answer that, right? So that is actually for the audience, the industry executives who are as audience, right? So that way we actually follow the setup. For the panel members, my request is if any point of time, if anything you want to indicate, we can use a chat mode. You can indicate in the chat mode as well, so that I'll have a look and then I'll react to it. Technical glitch can happen at any point of time. If my internet goes away, I probably maybe take a liberty. Ms. Ashish, you probably can start, continuing. So basically, I know we didn't discuss this before, but suddenly it has come to my mind. You can kind of continue, and then I'll try to join back, right? So I have another backup system in the parallel, but let's see how this goes. With this, I think I kind of welcome each and every panel member. I'll introduce a panel member today. We have Mr. Ajay Shatru Kotwal, who is a Director, Product Management, Supply Chain Solutions from Year Technologies. So he's actually having a very deep experience in building the product and business strategy, customer-centric decision-making, as with the product development, with the wide experience. And he actually brings the real-time visibility to the supply chain with the most accurate shipment ETAs. He worked in the predictive and prescriptive analytics. He is responsible today for the product management of innovative location-based solutions at a year on the year platform, right? Prior to this, he actually worked in formulating the business strategy for new product introductions along the complete IoT suite of products. Before year, he worked in Siemens India and developed the suite of IoT business across India and increase the business like volume of 3x of North India, right? So he's also, he's residing in India, but born and raised in India with a working stints around India, Germany, US, and so on and so forth with a MBA graduate, right? So I think very, very glad to have you, Ms. AJ. I think your talk as well, discussions and panel going to be a enriched experience for the audience. Welcome, AJ.
Thank you, Ganesh. That was a very, very flattering introduction.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, sir. We have Mr. Ashish Joshi, who is a Global Supply Chain Director for e-commerce from Unilever. Mr. Ashish actually is expertise in a go-to-market operations with a varied experience, almost like 16 plus years of experience across sales and multiple functions in supply chain. He's having a fantastic experience of leading large team and large projects in supply chain, and also creating and delivering a strong growth plans in the market with the great cross-functional teams, handled external both as well internal supplier, 3PLs and customers, with the focus on manufacturing, warehousing, logistics, planning and sales. Very wide experience, Mr. Ashish. A little of jealous of you and passionate for sustainability, which is also a very important topic for everyone of us. From the morning, actually, that's what I've seen, right? So digital and tech deployment is one element. At the same time, we also look at the sustainability. Ashish actually on top of it. It's a NIT alumnus and currently based out of London. Oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I'm not sure it's right or wrong, but welcome,
Yes.
Ashish. Very, very happy to have you in the panel. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh. Thanks a lot for kind words. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Nice of you. Yeah, very quickly, we have another 4-member, Dr. Rahul Altekar, Director, Digital Supply Chain Solutions, SAP India. Welcome, Mr. Rahul. So very glad to have you here. He's a director and has close to 28 years of rich experience in a reputed organization, including L&T, Piramal, JDA, SRAGs. I think a fantastic experience in covering multiple industries. Having extensive experience in academia as well, having worked as a SCM ERP consulting center at NITI. He also taught as a visiting faculty to multiple institutions like SP Jain, NITI, and SIBM Pune, and so on and so forth. He also actually comes with a very fantastic experience in authoring multiple books on supply chain domain. Graduate with a production engineering degree from University of Bombay with a PhD in supply chain from NITI Mumbai. Also a Sanskrit scholar. I think fantastic. Also, and also additionally, he holds an MA and MA degree in University of Mumbai, right? So, Dr. Rahul, very, very glad to have you. I think, as I said, the tech and the digital platform is one of the area where I think we will touch and get your sense for sure. Yeah. Thank you, Rahul. Very, very glad to have you. We have Mr. Binay Jubalia, who's a director from Armstrong. I think when we talk about technology, how do you bring this automation is important. So that's the reason we have Mr. Binay. So welcome, Binay. So very glad to have you. He's actually having 20 years of experience with the cross-functional work, covering multiple domain from manufacturing to a business development. He manages business development at Armstrong and support the production team especially. He actually comes from a manufacturing background, also having a deep entrepreneurial experience and drive the global expansion of business. He's actually a gold medalist from Mumbai University with a master's in manufacturing systems topper in his bachelor degree in production engineering. Mr. Binay, very, very glad to have you in this panel. Would love to kind of hear a lot on automations and technology from your side. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh, for your words. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And we have Mr. Arshal Boy, who's actually a Chief Business Officer, Express Bees. He's a Senior VP and the Business Head of Express Bees. Senior Sales Leader, as well as the Logistics Business Strategies with almost 20 plus years of experience in the logistic industry, covering multiple locations. Core competencies come from supply chain, sales, business development, e-commerce, and so on and so forth, right? And we actually have developed strategy and roadmap for the organization's business operations, and also he kind of instrumental in building, managing the startups, getting them to a break-even point. It's very important, right? So, and also he's fostering the culture of creativity and change management with the focus of improving the process. Very, very glad to have you, Mr. Arshal. I would love to kind of hear on e-commerce. Everyone is getting e-commerce and very important element. So would love to get some guidance from your side.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
Last but not the least, Mr. Prashant, General Manager, TVS Supply Chain Solutions. 18 years of experience in supply chain with a varied coverage of inventory, network, warehouse, international logistics, zero-based clean sheet budgeting, project management, and so on and so forth. I've executed a lot of projects, especially in the process improvements, cost reductions, and he worked in a global clients, especially how to reimagine the profit and bring the operational efficiency. Mr. Prashant, I think very glad to have you in the panel. Very, going to have an entire experience from all of the panel members. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ganesh. Very glad to be part of this esteemed panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I think very good, right? So with this, probably I'll take only exact 2 minutes to kind of give a view of the so-called the real-time logistic visibility. After that, by 2:13 now, 2:15, I'll give it to AJ. Probably AJ, you can have 15 minutes of your presentation. After that, we move to the panel discussion, right? So I just want to kind of share 2-3 slides, which is actually interesting for you, right? So how do we kind of maximize the logistic efficiency? Especially we talk about real-time visibility, right? One of the area which actually I've seen many of the client today embarking the journey is the digital logistic control tower, right? That is actually bringing the best on the table. A lot of panel members would have seen this. A lot of issues in logistics in India, right? So non-availability, poor maintenance of asset, and so on and so forth. That is all there. Everyone knows it, and which have a significant implications for the end customer, which is the poor transit time and so on and so forth. This is actually known to everyone, and on top of it, there is a huge pressing need on the OTIF, right? The end customer actually expecting about 90 plus OTIF target. Also, on top of it's almost a fuel on top of the fire. Increase in the driver shortage and so on and so forth, right? And there are other pressure as well. With all this pressure, I think there are top few questions there in the mind for be it a 3PL and be it a user industry who are actually going to leverage 3PL, right? So where are my competitors are doing today? How they are actually managing this challenge? What are the key capabilities I should actually have it on the table to kind of run through this? And what options kind of are available today to develop the capability? How does the overall transformation in digital logistics going to help? And ultimately, like, where do we start? These are the questions there on the mind, right? So for that, one of the answers which I have it on the table is the control tower, which is called the DLOC, the Digital Logistic Control Tower. This actually can be aimed in a better way, where keep it as a nerve center of the entire operations of your logistics, which actually brings the complete monitor, plan, and exception management, which actually brings a fantastic value add on the table, right? So there are 6 modules people focus. Many of our clients actually focus this, right? So it is not about only track and trace. It is about how do you manage your assets through a technology, through automations. That is also very important. And how do we kind of do an auto scheduler, which is a dispatch scheduler setup, right? That is also another third area where this DLOC is empowering. Performance management, which is a real-time performance management with the smart alerts. finally, how do we kind of structure the entire network to improve the overall logistic efficiency? These are the 6 modules people focus in DLOG, which actually brought in a lot of value on the table across industries, right? So some industry have some benefits, but these 6 modules have benefit across industry. If you see chemical, pharma, auto, and express. At the same time, this actually brought in a fantastic opportunity, right? The utilization of the vehicle has improved, on-time delivery has improved. There is a huge utilization of fleet, OTIF improvement, which we have seen in our clients' situations. At least, this has come in the magazine, Hindustan Zinc Limited, along with the FARI, with the McKinsey, actually has brought in a fantastic element of improvement in logistics, the same logistic efficiency, productivity, right? So that actually has brought in on the table. I think with this, I'll stop. This is one of the area where actually we can also touch and get some thoughts from our panel as well. See, a lot of myth there. It's a long drawn process. Entire technology stack has to be there, and adding more manpower is important. But I think let's actually hear from our panelists. How do we kind of is it myth is a myth, or is it real? And probably get some kind of a thoughts as well in our discussion. With this, I'll probably stop and over to Mr. AJ to hear from his experience. AJ, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh. Give me 1 second while I pull up my first slides, and I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. Just give me 1 second.
Perfect. While Mr. AJ comes along, right? So maybe if time permits, in the last 2-3 minutes, I'll probably show the real digital logistic control tower with the wire frames, with the real DLOG. Maybe 2-3 minutes. How the screen look like and how we established. We probably show that. So that'll be very interesting. Maybe in the last 2-3 minutes while we end the session. Yes, Mr. AJ.
Okay. So I hope everybody can see my main screen, and if not, please let me know before I get started.
Perfect, AJ.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining this session. And just a quick brief before I get started, right? I was just quickly thinking yesterday what sort of presentation to share, because I don't want to make it too text heavy. And I also thought that, like just the general competence of everybody attending this session and the panel, of course, it wouldn't make sense to talk about trends and everything. So it just actually makes sense to show what we've done in the industry, right? So I think that'll be the best showcase of what we really want to do, right? So in order to do that, what I really want to walk you through is actually maximizing shipment productivity to a real supply chain. Right? And what we're really going to do is talk about first about the company, because I know here it's a very, very old company, but it's relatively new in the terms of supply chain and fleet, right? So I really want to talk about the company first, talk about supply chain in general, our end-to-end solutions, and I really want to give you some key real-life examples, and then we'll discuss some key takeaways. Right. So the first thing is what is really here, right? Like I think maybe some of you must have heard this, maybe not, but we'll still start with this, right? So we're the leading location data and technology firms, right? Like we have been in the business for the last 30 to 25 years. We are responsible for moving businesses, city forward by harnessing the power of location. Right? We're basically empowering our customers to make sure that they achieve better outcomes by using our location platform. Right? And the way we sort of do this is mostly through scale, right? We have, like I said, we were founded in 1985. We have 8,000 people working across the globe, across all 5 continents, and we are available in 56 countries. We are on an average doing 80 billion transactions every day for location data. And this location data, I'll show you later what it really means in terms of how you are using it. Now, location data can be anything from maps to how you consume a map to basically how you drive analytics on the map itself. Right? And we are using this technology across different industries. What we are going to focus on today is, of course, going to be transportation and logistics, which is going to be our focus in supply chain. And in that particular space, you can see that we've got multiple customers. We work with all the leading Fortune 500 companies, along with all the leading system integrators, both inside India and outside of India in APAC and EMEA. Right? So that is our very, very quick introduction. I would really want to spend more time on what we do. Right? But in general, before we start, location technology is generally in the future going to be the main engine behind powering the logistics demand of today and tomorrow. It's going to be the main insight into what is going wrong, where is it going wrong, and basically what can we do to maximize operational efficiency. Right? So the very quick example before we get started, right? What I really want to understand is And again, this is a let's say a very shortened view, but this what I really want to say here is that every time something is put inside a warehouse and sent from your warehouse, your factory, your distribution center to an end customer, we can generally think of it as this, right? Some goods coming into your warehouse, we call it inventory planning and inventory management for planning. You plan to send that goods to somewhere. You get your TMS system up and running. You contract your subcontractors. The carrier comes in, and then your journey starts. Right? You put your shipment onto a truck. If it's multimodal, more complexity. If it's still local, if it's still only road transportation, it's still a problem, right? But this is what we're going to mostly looking at every supply chain. This is how it generally works. Now, what I really want to do is I want to start and build this, sort of split this up into two segments. The first one is how can we help or have help companies in inventory management for planning, right? Just to make sure like once the shipment comes in, how is it really handled effectively, right? So the first thing is asset tracking for inventory management, right? So what we are now doing is we are enabling and using real-time asset visibility for enabling high functioning supply chain logistic processes. And the way we sort of do it is, if you look on the screen, is our system is basically composed of three major components. Like we have the data, and the data comes in from our sensors, which is our hardware. Like, and I'll show you example later what that really means. We then sort of make sure that this data, this hardware is attached to not only your shipments that are coming in, but also the assets that you have inside your warehousing, things like forklifts, pellets, roller cages, anything else that you're using inside your warehouse to optimize the flow of logistics. Right? So we put that hardware on the on your assets, and then using that analytics, we can basically, first of all, we can track everything inside and outside, right? Seamlessly. We can tell you if some forklift is moving in a pattern where it's not supposed to move. So we can help you do alarm and exception management. And of course, on top of that, we do use case analytics, right? Which everybody does. Now, the differentiation factor is that we are using our own location powered services to make sure the customer is always aware about where things are going wrong in the warehouse. And if because of certain bottlenecks inside the warehouse, your shipment flow is getting affected. Right. So basically what that means is anywhere in your warehouse, your factory, even at your customers availability, your customer site, right? Things like, do you have the right pellet in your warehouse? Do you have the right containers? Do you even have the right containers tomorrow, or your trucks tomorrow, to make sure that you are able to send out all the shipments that you can, right? Do you have enough people working inside your factory available at the loading, unloading centers, so that when shipment comes in, can you really sort of make sure you are unloading it in the real time and not causing a congestion in your port or in your yard, right? So this is essentially what we're doing. It's an end-to-end solution where you have something starting from a hardware to a platform and to an application, and it's very easy to use, right? So in a very, very simplistic term, we let you choose the hardware that you want to use to track your asset, and the hardware can be bought in any way. It is an OpEx model or a CapEx model, which means you can literally use the whole service as a subscription. Right? Then you choose the hardware and the asset association. You say, okay, I have a warehouse in which I'm really not satisfied with the way the forklifts are moving. So we start monitoring the forklifts. When the forklifts are started monitoring, then what we do is we set up zones inside the warehouse, right? And by the way, when we say we start monitoring forklifts inside, this is all done on your existing Wi-Fi network, right? It's free of any additional infrastructure, so extremely low cost. Right? And it's just a very, very simple way of doing indoor tracking. Now, this Wi-Fi indoor tracking, this Wi-Fi positioning, again, like I was mentioning earlier, is based on HERE's 25, 35 years of positioning technologies, right? So it's all in-house. Using that, we can track your assets indoor and use geofences to make sure that when your assets are moving inside the building, inside your warehouse, you know how it is moving, the pattern of its movement, and basically where is it spending more time, and is that aligning with your plans. And after that is done, right, you can actually get notified for exceptions and decide the best course of your actions. And after a day or your week, you can also see reports on how this is affecting your utilization of assets. So you can have real-time visibility, not only into your shipments or not only into your warehouse, but also understand how's it moving, right? So give you a very clear example. This is a 50,000 square foot warehouse in APAC, where our customers are using our end-to-end visibility to track the movement of forklifts in between different areas, right? What they really understand is how much time is it spending after taking a job order and how much time it actually takes to go from point A to point B. And this looks simple because I'm only showing you one asset, but they literally have 250 forklifts. So what you really want to understand here is how much bottleneck can I remove if I understand the movement patterns of my forklifts, right? This is extremely important to understand. How can you basically make your outbound, inbound flow more seamless? And so this is a very, very clear example of how seamlessly and how easily this thing can be set up inside your warehousing and making your job much, much more easier. Now, a very, very clear example of this, before I sort of come to a clear example, I'll just give you a quick overview of why here and why this is basically why we sort of think we can do a much better job than anybody else is. Like, first of all, we can track any asset. Like I showed you a forklift. It can also be a roller cage. It can be a power jack. It can even be power tools. It literally depends on your willingness to track an asset, and we can track any asset, and we can track an asset anywhere, right? We can use your existing Wi-Fi databases, your existing Wi-Fi access points to start tracking anything seamlessly indoor and outdoor. And even when there is no connectivity, right, we can still track a device or your asset even when it's offline, right? We do not make hardware, so we don't promote hardware, and we're a hardware agnostic platform. So that's why we can able to address any asset that you want to track, because our partners make the hardware. Now, the way this whole thing works is because we have a partner that makes the hardware, we have our own Wi-Fi basic technology, so don't require you to put anything in your factories. This is an extremely lowered total cost of ownership solution. On top of that, we build in such a way that you already use the a tracking dashboard or an operation center or a visibility control tower. So you don't have to even develop that, or you can easily integrate into your existing systems, right? And using that, we can lower your TCO. Now, the last and the final piece is, in the last example that you saw, I showed you an example or a size of a warehouse. That is actually our here venue maps. Right? You can have a venue map of your factory, your warehouse, anything, and it can be to as much detail or as little detail as you want. Right? And then you can see how the assets move inside. And even when, as in most cases, maps are not meant to update your private areas. If you feel your private areas, your private location areas, your private warehouse areas are not updated, you can use our venue maps, our yard maps to basically make on-the-fly adjustment. You can add roads, add buildings, anything. So we basically make sure that you are the owner of your data and you control how is it being used. And you can add as many map attributes as you would like. Now, the best example of this is we are basically working with one of the leading manufacturers of glass in Europe, right? I may not be matching with your industry, but I think the problem is quite the same. Now, in glass manufacturing, what generally happens is you cannot send glass, finished glass, from point A to point B without having stillages. A stillage is basically a large metal structure where you actually place finished pane glass, and that is how you transport it, right? So that means it doesn't matter how much better you're producing or how good your quality of glass is. What really matters in transportation is, do you really have the right amount of stillages present in your factory and your distribution center to make sure they are being sent on time, right? So the problem that our customers generally have is, first of all, nobody has a really good idea of how many assets they have, right? They don't really know when they are on the move, when they are coming back. If the assets are going outside the factory, then it becomes even more difficult, right? Now, at the distribution centers, you also have challenges where you have longer dwelling times of a certain assets inside a warehouse. Like, it's not supposed to be there for a long time, but it is, and you do not know why, right? Then you lose stuff, you lose your assets, it gets stolen, it gets misplaced. So this is where we sort of come in and we say, we start tracking a customer's stillages, right? The first thing we do is we let the customer know where the stillages are, how they're moving in the supply chain, and basically how many stillages can you expect to be at your warehouse tomorrow. The first and the most important thing this does is this gives the customer confidence to have better inventory management. Because generally what happens is, when you do not know how many assets you have or you need, the most shortcut way of overcoming this problem is you get more assets, right? You have excess inventory and you overstock. So the first thing we do is we help a customer have realistic stock levels, which reduces the cost of stocking. And the next thing we do is, after that, is making sure that the overall supply chain becomes much more efficient. And what I mean by that is, even though the customer doesn't have control over the way these assets are moving in the supply chain, what he does have is he have visibility. He knows on an average, my shipments, my assets, my stillages, they spend 20 days on transit, and even another further days in distribution center and in retail venues. So this is the way our customers are to make sure that they are optimizing not only for the assets, but also the logistical process that the assets are supporting, which in this case is finished glass and manufactured glass and how they are transported from a factory to a retail venue, right? So extremely important visibility. And just by giving visibility to a small asset, we are bringing approximately 20 to 25% increase in the customer's order delivery, basically. Right? So this is how we can help customers do better at planning the flow of inventory inside a warehouse. Now, what happens when you get a shipment, when you actually subcontract your shipment, when you have a carrier, or maybe you have a 3PL that does for you, but what happens when the shipment actually goes out in the road, on the sea, maybe on rail, and even in air, right? What happens during then? We know even at this stage in the technological world, most of these events are condition-based and they're event-based, right? For example, when something reaches a port, you get a notification that something has reached a port. You don't know whether it's late, whether it's early. You don't know how long it's going to be stuck at a port. So this is where real-time visibility comes in. And that's what I want to talk about is I want to talk about shipment visibility, the solution that we have for execution. Now, almost the same kind of solution that I was talking about yesterday, the difference being now is instead of using just hardware, we are also using data from carriers, data from sea vessels, and data from other data sources to make sure that you always have visibility into your shipments going from point A to point B, whether your shipments are late, whether they are early, whether they are stuck at a point inside your supply chain for too long. And the best thing that happens in this case is that we give the customer the best possible ETA across the supply chain, not only ETA for the road, but also ETA across your sea route, your air route, your rail route, right? So it's an end-to-end ETA. So you really know when your end customer is going to receive this shipment, right? Same technology, but slightly different databases. Now, this is the system that is basically much more, let's say, it started by introduced in the North American part, but I think it's getting now spread across the world. So the system is basically all real-time transportation visibility, and there are multiple vendors that do this. The reason that we do this much better is because of our location heritage. We can basically do ETAs way better, right? Our ETA is based on road data, fleet data, even weather data, and this is what enables us to give the best possible ETA. And of course, with that, we can track shipments multimodal, whether it's a full truckload or a less than truckload. We are also the only party that is capable of doing even cold supply chain compliance, because we also have hardware that does it, right? So it's not only about connecting carrier data, we can also connect our own trackers into the network and really give visibility down to the parcel. And at the end of it, we are a neutral platform, right? Which is one of the things that is really coming up, because all the other RTTDP platforms are now storing and sharing your data with other companies, especially carrier data and shipment data. So that is the one thing that we have been done because of our European heritage. We are highly GDPR or privacy compliant, and we are a neutral platform in general. Right. And of course, on top of that, we have our multimodal coverage, our carrier network coverage. And of course, we are highly integrated in multiple TMSs, SAP, Oracle. All the SAP, Oracle planning is done using HERE technology, the HERE platform, right? So we are really into this. And again, to sort of show you how easily it can be done, right? Again, it is very simple. What we really need is to understand how the shipment is going, where the shipment is going, and basically a shipment plan. Right? We can start tracking a shipment, like I mentioned, either using a tracker, right? Or we can start using AIS data or carrier data, right? It's the customer's choice. I'll give you a very simple example is that maybe you're sending something in a container and you want to track the whole container. And you know that the container only goes up to your first distribution center. And after that, the shipment is split up. But you still want to track something inside the shipment that is a higher value, or maybe it requires a certain level of visibility because of your end customer's requirement. So while you can use carrier data to track the truck and the container, you can also put a tracker inside the individual shipment to making sure that even when there is a shipment split, you can still track that particular small pellet or maybe a packet all the way to the end customer, right? And the way it does is like we start, let's say, setting up this shipment association. We know what to track, and then the customer says, okay, I want to know every time there is more than 3 hours of dwelling anywhere. I want to know if there is any time a deviation from the route, which my 3PL, my carrier has promised me. I want to understand if there is any deviation in the ETA thresholds, right? And you can set up all of these rules and you can basically get notification. And then what happens is, then you immediately start tracking your shipment in real time. And as you can see here, this is a real life example, right? A shipment moving from Italy to Tampere. This is where you start seeing this in action, right? This shipment covers a sea route, an air route, and also a road route. And you can immediately start saying that even before something starts, we give you a real-time ETA forecast. And this ETA forecast gets better and better as the shipment progresses, right? So we understand where the ETA comes from, and more importantly, we help you understand where the ETA is getting affected, whether it's at the port or it's at the warehousing or whether it's at the airports.
But yeah, good, AJ. Some more slide to go, or we're done? Okay.
We're done, almost one more slide, and that is it. And of course, we give you post-shipment analytics and help you understand how it is. And one very clear example, we are one of the leading providers of visibility to Siemens Healthineers, one of the biggest OEM companies in the world. And what we really end up doing is, I'm just going to quickly go through the actual, let's say, workflow of this case, right? We help them to track their high-value shipments, high-value MRI machines, MRI scan machines, CRT machines, and even their spare parts, all the way to the hospital, and not only to the hospital, but also to the floor into which the shipment is made or delivered, right? So we start tracking it from the manufacturing facility. We tell the hospital how far is your delivery going to be. We tell the actual ETAs. Then we get indoor visibility once the shipment reaches the warehouse, and once the shipment is reaching the actual hospital where it is supposed to be installed, we tell the hospital that your shipment is going to reach in the next 4 to 5 hours, so they can set up for the installation and start setting up or stop seeing patients at that point of time. So extremely valuable in terms of end-to-end. I'm going to quickly slip this slide because I think we're over time. So just 4 little key takeaways that I want to take, that I want you to take away from this presentation. The first thing, the supply chains of tomorrow will require accurate ETAs as the demand increases, right? So that's why location plays a key role. It will absolutely matter how good your ETA is, as opposed to today, what most of the people are doing. They're fine with just a static or a highly flexible ETA, but accurate real-time ETA is going to be the main demand of tomorrow. Goods and assets will have to be located anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's indoor or outdoors, right? Good locations and will be main point in the next 10 to 15 years. Integration, of course, are always important because we know how stagnated and how fragmented supply chain is. We know it's important. So you have to have a platform that connects into multiple TMSs, FMSs. And of course, all of this has to be done while you keep your infrastructure cost low and you make sure that you're not spending more than what you're actually saving on. So this is really important. And like I said, here is uniquely positioned to make that jump, right? So we really want to make sure that we do all of these, let's say, projects along with co-development and cooperation from our customers, right? So I really thank you for your time. If you want, we have a really nice paper on this, and if you really want to get in touch with us, please, this is my email, get in touch with me at any point of time. And I thank you so much for your attendance and for your time that you give to me. Back to you, Dr. Ganesh.
Yeah, thanks, AJ. Thanks. So it was excellent in terms of knowing the technology and what is happening in the world. So that's fantastic, right? From the ear technologies point of view, that's great. I think so. I know, right? We probably, I think, slightly step back and probably do a problem definition. So I think let's probably step back and think through what is happening today, what are the challenges we have, and why this visibility is really important. Let's actually probably understand, and from there we slowly move to a solutions platform. So then I think that would be the next 45-50 minutes discussion. We probably have it as a panel discussion. So yeah, I probably take a liberty to start with Mr. Ashish, right? So Ashish, I think you come from a very rich experience, user industry. So my question to you is this, right? the visibility, and that too a real-time visibility, whether it is very important today or there are few clients actually say this, right? So yeah, I'm running my business, I'm actually doing it, delivering it. Is it really needed? Because not, I mean, from Indian context point of view, I have a GPS. I actually know where my vehicle is, but should I actually really make it happen as a control tower and run the show and then keep the end-to-end visibility of my logistics setup? Is it why it is needed? I probably start the question from you. Want to get your thoughts, Ashish.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Ganesh. And thanks, AJ, for a wonderful presentation. It makes a job easier, at the same time takes away some of the points that I was going to make. So I have, in between, I was thinking a little more creatively. We talk about logistics, supply chain, and logistics and supply chain professionals are very serious about their job. And that's the reason why we perform so well. So, but I'm a movie buff. I've been watching movies for a very long time, and probably there is a link. So Dr. Ganesh, when you ask me whether real-time visibility is important today or not, for me, there are various instances, and I'll quote a couple, where it was important even 100 years back. Yeah. I'm sure some of you, and most of you would have seen movie Titanic. So Titanic sank because of low visibility, right? Or no visibility. So that was a matter of, and I'm not making fun of the lives that were lost, very tragic incident. But the point that I'm trying to make is that real-time visibility was important then, it is important today. The way we define real-time visibility, just one more example before we go there. Again, most of us would have taken a flight. And when we go into the flight, a lot of information is shared by the captain. And if you listen carefully, he talks about where we started, where we are going, which direction we are going, what is the outside temperature, which I never realized why would we be worried about outside temperature. We are not going to open the windows anyway. But then there's an important information that he talks about before landing, about visibility at the airport. And that visibility at the airport gives you confidence, or at least I could think about what kind of landing is going to be. If the visibility is poor, it means either it's raining or it's clouded or it's a hailstorm. You can expect a difficult or a turbulent landing. If it's a good visibility, like the one that I had, thankfully, when I landed in London last Sunday morning, 16 miles visibility. I never heard about a visibility that good, and we had a very smooth landing. So those are the two things that come to my mind when I say what is the importance of visibility. Now the question is, we use this term real-time visibility quite comfortably. And sometimes we may get, as you said, Dr. Ganesh, is it really important to track that last truck? Is it really important to really see on the map where the truck is? And that is where the biggest challenge is, and that is where the question that we need to answer is, what is relevant for us? So rather than looking for real-time visibility, I see relevant time visibility. For example, in a container movement from, say, Singapore to Rotterdam, it's a 30-day long journey. Yeah, I'm not worried about what happens when the container is sailing unless there is an issue. So if it is lagging behind, if it is not going at the speed that it should be going, or if there is a Suez Canal-like incident, that's when I want to know what has happened and where the container is, or what the kind of issues that I'm going to face. And as AJ mentioned, I would like to know what's my ETA. I don't want to know on a regular basis about thousands of containers. So it's very important that what is relevant and relative for us as a business, that is the level of visibility we should be seeking. Otherwise, it becomes a very good shiny toy on our laptops and our mobile phones, but we don't get much value out of it. So it's very important to identify what's the use case for your own businesses, and if you are dealing with life and death situation, or you are dealing with something more. But that's the importance of visibility, and that's how I see why visibility is important. I'm not a fan of real time means every second, but I do definitely believe, and I will share some examples later in the discussion, how it makes sense for our business.
Very crisp, very fantastic, Ashish. I think I actually put in a chat. Probably, I think we collaborate and write a next article from a from moving from a real time to a relevant time visibility. So I take a collaborator IP with you. That's very important, right? Because you said it right. I think one of the client very quickly in a 10-second level. Hey, I just have to understand whether my overall transit time actually is in a control. That's all, right? I don't need to have each and every movement on the table. So that's a fantastic articulation, Ashish. I think so. Each and everyone, I think, step back and think through where and what level they need. That's a very good, right? So whenever we think about the complete visibility, right? So I always think from a forward logistics. Maybe I'm going to ask this question to Arshil, right? So from his experience, from Express B's, I know forward logistics everyone does. But look at from a returns, right? The entire reverse logistics. But I want to pick your brain, Arshil, right? So how this the visibility in returns today you are managing, is it happening today or is it very tricky? Want to get your sense, and what is the your experience, and are you doing it already, or is it very at a nascent stage? Just want to get a sense from your side, Arshil.
When you say forward or return, there is I just heard both the gentlemen speaking about the visibility part. But today, when I say to my portfolio or my foray, for example, e-commerce, today, to give a best example, is like a food delivery. We know we all used to order food earlier as well. But today we know when that driver is leaving from that restaurant, and we don't call him. There was a time when earlier we used to call him at the car pocha, where you have reached. Have you started? Yes, no. But today that gives a visibility where he started, where he's reached. In fact, we sometimes open the door before he reaches and knocks the bell as well. So that's my say. Well, I agree with the gentleman across. On the return management, it's the same way as forward. So currently the system, the entire ecosystem runs on the hub and spoke model. So once a pickup is dropped, there is executed rather. There's a visibility from the delivery staff or a pickup staff going to the person because the lat longs of that address already there. Pickup after pickup, there's a scan done. It's a photograph taken. If the contents are not intact, again there's a photograph taken and it is rejected. There are certain key metrics which are checked and then shipment brought back. So earlier the scenario was when the shipment was to be picked up, the refund should not happen in your account because it has to be a QC check would have been very necessary. In today's world, because of the visibility part, again, the image being shared to the customer in advance, once you pick the shipment up in maybe in 5 minutes, the money is refunded back to you. So in returns as well, there are still some loopholes in terms of actually when I order a Tommy shirt, there are certain SKUs which I should check. There are customers who give a wrong kind of maybe shipment, and there are such cases. But still, there's quite a lot of sense from between the forward and reverse. The entire supply chain can be tracked today.
Interesting. Fantastic. So I think it's good to know. I know some of the salient points from your side, right? I think having heard from Ashish why it is important and your experience in return, I probably switch a gear to Mr. Prashant, right? I think he actually serving a lot of clients today, especially in all dimension, right? So maybe from your experience, whatever you've overcome in your role, what are the challenges you heard from your customers, from your clients? What are the challenges you heard when you are embarking a journey of combination of hardware and software for real-time visibility? What challenges you heard and how you are overcoming that, right? So just to get a sense of it, that'd be helpful, Prashant.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Ganesh. So to answer your question, why is real-time SE visibility, a holy grail to achieve, or why is it so challenging to achieve it? The answer is quite simple. In the prima facie, the answer is very simple. The data is available with all of the organizations, but it is very fragmented. It is available in silos. I would like to cite an example of a recent sales and operation planning implementation that we did in our organization. So the challenge that we saw is this is a middle tier company with about 7,000 crores in turnover. And it's not a small company here that we are talking about. So they did have SAP and other allied systems, but the issue is all of the different functions, say your sales, your production, your marketing, your logistics, etc., worked in their own fragments, or they worked in their own silos. So whatever value that they were trying to deliver was very, very focused on the job in their hand. And they never looked at the overall supply chain as a single entity. Now, what SE Visibility does is to teach us to look at supply chain as one single entity. So if I was to categorize all of the challenges and solutions into 3 different buckets, it would probably fall under people, process, and technology. With people, again, you will have to give them the right sort of information. Of course, the information is available, but do you have the right metrics? Do you have the right dashboards for the right stakeholders in the organization? Say in this organization that I was just citing an example about, the sales team had their projections, but it wasn't linked to the production schedules. The production worked on a 3-month average from their past production schedules, etc. And it wasn't linked to the sales projections. Similarly, with your replenishment or your logistics, which was not taking into consideration any of the other plans which were available. And they were doing their own averages or any other inputs they might get from the market. So there are obviously a lot of manual operations that happens with a lot of organizations. And that is what they take into consideration. So I would say I would categorize them into these 3 buckets: people, process, and technology. And when you come to implement this process, is also bucket them in the same categorization. When you talk about people, you give the right stakeholders, the right metrics, the right dashboards that enables them. Yes, information is available, but how do you represent it in a way that I as a logistics manager can use it and deliver value to the organization? When it comes to process, do I have an all-entailing process which is taking all of my functions into the picture? So the SNOP collaboration platform that we brought into picture, again, took all of the functions into the picture and then brought them all onto one single platform. So the entire supply chain was looked at as a single entity rather than being looked at in silos. So I think organizations are now realizing the importance of it and then are also moving towards looking at supply chain as a single entity rather than looking at different functions or at a level of departments. So these are the challenges I would probably summarize.
No, fantastic, right? I think what you said makes sense. While technology tool actually act as a base, but I think we need to have a proper pillar of people and process. Otherwise, technology is like mere. We can have technology, but I think we may not actually use it in a proper way, right? So
that's just the bragging rights and nothing else.
Very well said. Maybe I think I'll probably move to Dr. Rahul with the exact what you said, right? The people, process, technology, because Rahul, I think you come with a fantastic technology platform. From your experience, what I want to ask in this real-time supply chain visibility, whatever you have seen and you have come across, how this people part, the talent and capability, how that is there today from your experience, and how people actually has to step back and develop this in order to have this the visibility of either the planning visibility or even the logistic visibility. Sometimes both are connected, and you would have seen a lot of planning visibility along with the logistic visibility, right? So how this is happening today from your experience, and how what are the 2 or 3 things people have to step back? Number one, that is the first question. And at the same time, since he talked about technology, what are the technology prerequisites I should have it? Maybe if you covered both, that'd be helpful, Dr. Rahul. Over to you, and would love to get your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ganesh. So I would like to start with one, kind of an observation. What we are seeing it for last about, I think, 10 years. And the changes are so rapid that every 2 to 3 years, we could see the concepts itself are changing. And very rightly, you mentioned about the talent. The first part, which, I would like to comment here is a definition of the profit itself, right? So the profitability and the profit, that's a mere concept which we use more in the monetary kind of an contribution sense. But we are now seeing that, the companies are looking at more as a service orientation as a profit. the type of kind of an ability to fulfill, ability to service the orders is becoming much more important than the mere monetary contribution. And that's actually the kind of an philosophy which is driving. So you use a word called visibility, and I think rightly Ashish also mentioned that the relevant visibility or the real-time kind of an visibility should not be more weightage rather than we look more as a relevant visibility. But I would like to add a point here that to respond to the dynamic situation, harnessing the real-time visibility is a key factor which companies are really looking at. They are crashing their supply chain planning cycles from months to weeks, and we see a very clear kind of an adoption. You mentioned about the prerequisite, so the kind of the mentality to change is, I think, the key kind of an prerequisite, because you have to crash your monthly mentality into a weekly mentality. The traditional demand forecasting, you have to go with something called demand sensing. So I think those are all kind of things are very positively happening. From talent standpoint, a clear trend of youth dominance, which we could see, and the the reduction of the average age of a supply chain planner community, especially in India, is very, very visible across industries. I'm talking cement, I'm talking automotive, I have seen in pharma, CPG, everywhere. See, the average age, a decision maker from talent perspective is 25 to 30. I mean, those are all guys are creating the the entire demand plan for you. They're running the SNOP show. So it's a very kind of an enthusiasm kind of an environment which has come, and I think that's a prerequisite, right? So we should look at that kind of an people for supply chain planning at least. Automatically the changes will happen because the risk taking ability of those people are much higher. In fact, the kind of an just to complete this particular point, what we have seen, the when companies are adopting for any digital solution for that matter, they are not asking some kind of an planning perspective or optimization perspective. That is given, that's a hygiene. What they are now asking is something called the predictive risk mitigation than the visibility. So for example, I mean, one of the pharma company today, we are working with them, and they are evaluating the digital software to help diagnose current inventory norms for safety stock. And they would like to know when exactly it will be losing the sales due to stock out situation. Now look at this. I mean, the traditional way of planning, traditional way of coming up with the inventory plan, it's hygiene. You tell me in next month in which date I will be going out of stock. You tell me now. And that's what is expected from software. That's what is expected from the solution. So I want to tie up your question. Ye jo, this kind of an, you can say the openness will happen only at the age of 25 to 35. Right. I want to solve the problem for the next 30, because otherwise the typical learning will come. No, I have seen 45 days is my inventory norm. I have seen so many seasons. I have seen everything. I don't want to, in a way, I don't want to listen out what the analytics and the what kind of an message and alerts which are coming to me. So the investment is becoming IT. Investment is not resulting into money. So I will summarize that the way in which the industry is moving today, very, I'm happy, very positive. We have to continue this kind of an rapport in terms of motivating the kind of that youngness and the youth flavor which is coming in supply chain. Kind of an also we have to see the diversity. I forgot that point. Very interesting positive things. A lot of ladies are coming in logistics. A lot of ladies are participating into supply chain. They are looking at that as a career. All positive.
Fantastic. I think just to add a real the quantitative point from my side. I think I lead a team, it's a 70+ member center of competence team, right? So you don't believe 9 years back, we kind of started with the 5 or 6 people, no women. So imagine the 9 years out of 70 people. Now today I have 30 women working in supply chain consulting, traveling all over the world. So 30 out of 40, 30 out of 70 is like women, right? Which actually doing hardcore manufacturing, hardcore supply chain consulting. So there is also real evidence, which is matching with your statement, Dr. Rahul. So fantastic, right? I think another very good learning is the service orientation as a profit. I think a lot of terminology evolving in this panel discussion. So that's very vital. That's very vital, right? So maybe I think very good, right? So we answered why, and we understood it's both in forward and reverse. We also kind of understand we have to set the people and process, and people, obviously, bring the relevant talent, the new talent, diverse talent. That's a very fantastic learning in this topic, right? I probably switch gears to Binoy. So Binoy, I think from your side, so today, sometime, as a user industry, people actually wanted to understand the Slack, the technology Slack, because a lot of automation technology is there. And sometimes, it's very tough to kind of think through what all to leverage, what all to kind of omit. A little bit of confusion there, right? So just want to get a sense from you, what is available, and from your experience, what do you advise? I know AG actually covered a fantastic, the technology platform and stuff, but want to get your thoughts as well. That'll be helpful, Binoy.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Ganesh. So I like the way Ashish said, very rightly, he said that it's more than real time, it's relevant data. So in this era of Industry 4.0, real-time data, everything, it has to have a purpose. So when we are talking about our day-to-day operations, what's the purpose of having this real-time data? The purpose is having BI-enabled solutions, like business intelligent-enabled solutions, or data which is helping you to take business-assisted decisions. Because that's the decision that will help you to take a leap forward, understand where are the loopholes in your current business portfolios or your operations, and where we can improve and where we can increase our profitability. Software indeed is the backbone of all these automation technologies. So let it be in any of the core functions, let it be production, let it be manufacturing, let it be storage, retrieval, let it be inbound, outbound. Anywhere, data is important, and the software is the core function that's keeping all these data together. I'll just give a very simple example of how one of the automation technologies that's helping clients across all segments or all verticals. Dock is the area where the transaction takes place. Any material comes inside a warehouse or any material leaves the warehouse. So this is the point where any financial transaction actually takes place. Now, in the initial old days, how it used to happen that we have the loaders, we have the mathadis, we have these people who are just loading these boxes inside the truck. Some amount of improvement happened. People started keeping a security guard. He started counting. Yeah, but that's all. We were not going beyond that. So now we have automation technologies in this place. We call it the dispatch management system or the dock management system. So what data these systems of this automation technology is capturing? It's capturing the dock efficiency. It's calculating the operator productivity. It's helping you to restrict pilferage. It's helping you to understand if there any analysis on your wrong picking or your wrong dispatches. It helps you to understand what have been your peak days, your peak hours of the day, of the month, or of a specific day. Are there any season patterns? So whenever you're capturing such data, the relevant data of this dispatch management will help you to understand or take decisions in terms of, okay, my season days have started coming. I need to increase my number of docks from 3 to 5. I need to understand that my operator efficiency is low in the third shift. So I need to plan in a way that my dispatches are not affected. So what's more important, that there are different automation technologies in the place in market, but what's more relevant, that is going to support the business. So business intelligent enabled solutions are extremely important. Second is the case of storage and retrieval. If I talk about the earlier days where people used to store the material on ground, it used to be a block storage. The problem that got associated was that with the increase in the volume, how do we store that material? How do we retrieve it? The number of people that are required for getting the material out, it's completely human dependent processes. So now with the help of software, with the help of right automation technologies, all these real-time data is giving you a complete visibility on what's your current inventory. Is there any material that's lying in your warehouse from a very long amount of time? Is it going to touch your shelf life and it's going to be a loss to your organization? So there are technologies which will be spread across 4 areas: production, storage and retrieve, inbound and outbound. So these are the areas where we can focus and different technologies can be planned in that way.
No, fantastic, Bida. I think the BI, which is actually very, very critical, right? I think that's why we have to step back and figure out. I know. I actually have a technology, and I actually have data which is already available. But how do you kind of bring the BI to kind of enable to make it happen? It's a very vital element you mentioned, right? So, thanks, Bina. That was really helpful. Maybe I think I actually maybe go to AJ, right? So AJ, I think you talked about the location analytics in detail. That is very good, right? But my question is around that. But so we understand, right? From all our discussions, the relevant time has come from Ashish. The BI is another important stack which is very critical, and people process technology is critical. But from your experience, this is one of the complexities we have seen from many of my clients in location analytics, right? The data, the source of data, because it's sometimes structured, sometimes unstructured, sometimes I'm not supervising it at all. So how this is evolving today, and whether people have to really invest and make the source of data first, then only move for analytics, or it can be a parallel journey. So want to get thoughts from you, right? Because some people say, hey, I don't actually capture anything. I just have a GPS and I have I know where the truck is, but I'm not capturing it properly. I don't know which to capture, what to capture. So mainly from location analytics point of view, what is all required? Is it happening already? Or if it's not happening, how people actually can transform? So that I think would be helpful from a data and source of data point of view, AJ.
Well, that's a very, very, very valid question, Dr. Ganesh. So I think the important, and I want to reuse that word where everybody's saying that is relevance, right? So location data without relevance is just a dot on a map, right? So what ends up happening is, what you really need is you first of all, yes, you need to have structured data. That's the basis, right? And then on top of that, you need to add context, right? So what I generally tell customers when I meet them is like, you think about your supply chain, you're making a bread, and what we really bring is like location with context is water. Like without that, what you really have is flour and yeast. There is nothing else. And what I mean by that is, before the context the context to location is so important that some customers don't even realize what is happening in the supply chain till they bring relevance into the supply chain. A very big example is, I've been working with a very big German automotive OEM, right, for a long time. And when they started, this is a very, very big high-tech OEM, right? When they started putting visibility into the supply chain, before that, what they simply knew was that when their shipments of cars are sent out after they are manufactured, they stop at a port for 20 days. That's what they knew, right? And when you actually start putting relevance to it, what we then started telling them is, hey, by the way, now when you put location on it and you put map data on it, what you realize is it's not stopping at the port for 20 hours. It's actually stopping at the parking lot outside the port for 20 hours because somebody forgot to put your cars into a container, right? Not because they forgot, because some other container got prioritized before you, right? So then they say, oh, I'm getting stuck at the port, but I also paying parking fees, right? So then this is something they didn't even know for 20 years. Right. So then suddenly you add one layer of context and you see, oh, by the way, I'm not getting stuck. I'm actually getting deprioritized. And while I'm getting deprioritized, I'm also getting charged for the parking fees at the port, right? So this is what contextual relevance location data does to companies, right? Another very similar example is customers who have, and I've seen it firsthand, right? Customers who have big yards, they have trucks coming in and trucks going out, right? So what they generally say is, by the way, the ETA of this truck coming in my port is 2 hours. They forgot to take into account that sometimes the truck gets stuck at the port for 1 hour while coming in, right? Because there is so much traffic inside the port. So again, contextual information over and above location is really, really important to making sure that you can actually plan better, right? This is what a lot of other people, especially Dr. Rahul, was saying, that you have to plan better. And this is how you get to your plans better, when you actually have real-time information along with context, giving you insights that you never had.
Fantastic, Ajay. I think well said. I think we actually have a very good coverage of multiple subtopics in this visibility, right? So now I want to hear a story. Okay, I think I'll go back to Mr. Ashish only, right? I want to really want to get a compelling story because I definitely know Ashish, you are in our previous discussion you are indicating, right? So you actually did logistics control tower first before the planning control tower. That's where you said you actually already started that very way back. I want to get a clarity, right? If I want to start this, what are the benefits I will get? What you got already, and how do I actually do this? What is the way I can start this? And what is your experience? And if you could tell a compelling story where what was your journey and how you actually come through, and also please indicate some failures. I mean, some kind of a bottleneck or roadblocks you would also come across, right? So what are those, and how do you kind of overcome that? Maybe I think if you could give me a story of it, that'd be helpful, Ashish. I know it's actually a heavy shoulder question, but how to get from you? Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll try my best. I don't have a movie right now, but you are right. So we started transport control tower almost a decade or actually 12, 13 years back in our European operations in Katowice in Poland. Katowice is a very small place, not very known. We have a factory there, and you are right. So before we talk about the Katowice story, see, one thing is very important, and I think all of us are alluding to it. There has to be a business case. There has to be a strong business case, a benefit against the investment that we are making. And many a times, and I have faced this within Unilever, and I'm sure all of us are facing, it is very difficult to build a business case on what are the possibilities of the future. When you go with a business case to a finance colleague, they would ask, what is the money that you're going to invest and what is the money that you're going to save? And that's a very clear expectation, or what is the increase in sales? What are the reduction in wastages? So there has to be a very strong, at least a good business case with actual numbers. What we started with, as I said, knowingly and unknowingly, I would say structurally or not so structurally, was defining the problems. What I mean by that is, for example, let's take a real life case in Europe where we have multi-sourcing factories, which means that we produce in a factory, let's say in Germany or Poland or Netherlands, and we service it to the different countries in Europe. There are 27 different countries in Europe where we sell our products, but the product can come from any country and also from outside of Europe. So that's the one thing. Each SKU is different. There's a complexity associated with it. There is a S&OP process in place, and all that is fine. But ultimately, you also see that there's a big implication on inventory because of the lead times that it takes from shipping a product from, say, Poland all the way to UK. There's a cost involved and there's a lead time involved. So when the lead time component is high, that's where you start to say that how can I cut it? Because if I cut this lead time by half, that's the benefit on inventory and working capital. AJ talked about the example of that waiting time at the port. We paid, or at least I would say 2 years back, we paid millions of euros in demurrage in waiting time in ports. Because we didn't know where the container is. The business case for visibility was not made that we would have faster shipments, but the business case was made on how much demurrage will we save. And that's how this entire thing came. The added benefit was, and this is a real example that I'm sharing, is last year or earlier this year, when we had the Suez Canal crisis. All the supply chains in the world have written big papers around it.
Right.
We invested in the control tower technology for visibility in our, because of reduction, or the business case was reducing demurrages. But we ended up getting benefit on Suez Canal crisis, because within 3 hours probably, after the Suez Canal crisis became a big news, we got a list, an Excel file saying, because of Suez Canal crisis, these are the materials under risk of delay. And this list was made available within 3 hours. I could not have imagined this happening if we didn't have the real time or the track and trace mechanism that we had. And probably the 3 hours that we took were to decide who should all be marked on the communication rather than getting the information. So the point that I'm trying to drive is there has to be a very strong business case. There has to be a business case of saving money, saving emissions or reducing emissions, or improving sales and getting growth. Without that, it's very difficult to sell a digitization or a real-time visibility project. And I'm sure this will be true for most industries because we all have similar problems. So that's one. Now coming to the point of why logistics control tower came before planning control tower. As I said, that this team in European logistics team was facing this challenge that they are sitting in a factory and there are probably 40, 50 odd factories across Europe. And it's very difficult to coordinate stocks, coordinate movement of goods. And then the idea came that since we are anyway a multi-sourcing location, we are operating with multiple transporters who are also dealing with multiple locations. And we don't have visibility on what's happening where. Many a times we are just doing those pristine ways of calling and asking for trucks. Sometimes trucks are arriving and we are sitting on a refrigerated truck and it is delayed at the factory because the production is not in line with the truck arrivals. And here in Europe, we pay huge amount of money for waiting, whether it's a taxi that you call for, every minute that you ask the Uber to wait would cost you maybe 50 rupees in Indian rupees terms every minute. I paid a hefty amount last week because immigration process took longer. So it's a different story. Similarly, for trucks, it can cost you anywhere between 15 to 20 euros per hour just of waiting time for a refrigerated container. So you can actually end up paying millions of dollars, millions of euros in just waiting. So this coordination is what was missing. And this was again identified as an opportunity, saying if we were able to have visibility of how many trucks are we needing every day, who are the transporters, how do we really create loops? Because the other factors, even today, close to 30% of the trucks or the running of the trucks is on empty. So that 30% time the trucks are running empty because they don't have visibility on where the next load is, and therefore they either work through agents or they wait for the next load to come. And that is the problem which Uber has solved, Ola is solved in India, of creating visibility and bringing the demand and supply together. Even Blackbuck, Zinka Logistics in India has done that. So there is a lot more opportunity for minimizing wastage in the system, which is a win-win for all, or the transporter, for us, as well as for the truck driver, and also for the environment, because if you're cutting down on emissions, you are cutting down on kilometers traveled empty, you are also cutting down on emissions. It's a win-win proposition for everybody. But this is where the business case comes in, and this is what was the opportunity that was seen 10, 12 years back. Started very humbly with a small team of 5 people trying to do all of this without much of technology. Of course, even European infrastructure is much developed. So visibility, or at least GPS tracking, is the standard norm here. So we had that visibility, but then again, you are dealing with 50, 60, 100 transporters. Each of them have their own tracking mechanism. So you are there ultimately working with multiple screens and trying to mix and match. That's where it started. It currently is in a far more advanced stage where we have a far more, say, real-time visibility, analytics going in, predictive analytics going in. We are using all the information even for doing contracting and so on and so forth. So the team is well set, and we're getting a lot of benefits in terms of service reliability, cost savings, and emission saving. The planning tower actually was then an extension to this, saying if we could drive this, first of all, then European tower went to multiple countries. So we now have 11, probably that's the last count that I know, 11 logistics control towers across the globe, managing transport planning and also execution in some cases. But we also didn't overdo it because we also didn't want to take the responsibility or the ownership from the people on ground. So we do the planning centrally, but we leave the execution to the people on ground. Otherwise, it becomes nobody's responsibility, or people start to say that I don't know, talk to the tower. And then this becomes a problem. Planning discussion happened more to say that where are the opportunities where we could do planning centrally. And the broad principle there is, let's first look at what are the repetitive non-value adding activities that we could bring together at one place the idea is not to automate non-value-adding activities, but the idea is to then first do a process mapping and see what all elimination can we do, what are the non-value activities that can be taken off. Then remaining activities, how can we do more, say, efficiently, either through use of machines or through people. And then on top of it, how can we build expertise with a smaller group of people, but people who have visibility of different scenarios, different businesses across the globe, and bring that as a center of excellence and expertise on top of what we are doing. So that has been our journey. We are still in the journey and we'll keep evolving, but it has been a really very interesting way to see how we start with a business problem, then try to solve. Because if you start with a solution first, or if you start with a shiny toy, more often than not, it's going to be a failure. So
agree with you, Ashish. I think it's fantastic, right? I think what you said is very clear. The business case, I think, otherwise it's actually not a win-win setup. I think we have to step back and figure out where to start and what area to start. That is actually very vital, right? So thanks Ashish for sharing that. I know we have another 9 minutes. Probably we can have a rapid round, maybe elevator speech, another one more round with all of us, right? So that'd be helpful. Maybe I'll probably switch to, there are two, three questions from the audience as well. I'll try to ask that question as well while we go along. Maybe to Dr. Raghu, right? This question. See, the overall logistics, the control tower or the entire real-time logistic visibility. So that one portion, can that be connected to our order backlogs? Because today, especially there are backlogs which is happening in the plant or happening in the entire manufacturing process. So from your viewpoint, maybe a very quick, 30, 45 seconds view, what you have seen, how this has been connected to an order backlog, can we actually bring some kind of a strategy to kind of reduce overall, control the overall inventory and reduce the backlog? So just want to get the thoughts, Dr. Raghu.
Sure. So I think within a minute, if you can ask me to respond, I think it's always better to look at the live example. So let's say cement industry. They have a very interesting KPI called NCR, right? Net cement realization.
Yeah.
Especially in the non-monsoon season, when the capacity is falling short significantly, these companies, they would really would like to review the backlog fulfillments and the new orders in one dashboard.
Right.
The logic of allocation of in such kind of a time, allocating your constraint supply, it becomes very interesting and very complex, because you have to leverage all the available options like direct deliveries, maybe from plant to your dealers or even the OEMs, whichever it is. Should I use a trucking or should I use a rail racks? That's another kind of a thing, and linking everything back to the warehouse inventory. And the companies even linking it back to the packing line planning. Okay. So in a way, this real-time visibility of orders will directly influence the packing line production sequence. So answering in a very nutshell that your raw materials, your packing material perspective, you should have a proper strategy, what we call as a DDMRP. Demand-driven MRP is a new kind of an popular thing which is coming up. Right. So you look at your backlogs, you look at your new orders, review them in a one dashboard. Entire, kind of a logistics planning, you run it across, touch back to your production, especially on the packing line sequencing. I'm talking about a cement perspective. And then using your DDMRP kind of an tool or a philosophy, you can mitigate the, the risk of non-availability of the raw material, and you can still manage the demand fluctuations.
No, fantastic, right? I think how do you connect the dispatch efficiency or dispatch planning along with the inventory setup? That actually kind of connects and solve this problem, which actually somehow we can reduce the overall backlog. So well said, Dr. Raghu. So that is helpful. There's one question which I had. I also come from audience, right? So while we are discussing about the entire visibility, how I can actually bring the smart alerts, right? There is a smart alert, and that is important from the context of how to reduce pilferage or overall financial loss, right? So especially the customer who's operating warehouse. Maybe I think I'll pass this question to Binoy, right? From your experience, we could actually give a very rapid maybe elevator answer that be helpful. Yeah.
Sure, Dr. Ganesh. See, whenever we are talking about pilferage or revenue loss, there are certain parameters how we define that. Firstly, it's about a wrong count going out. Second is the wrong SKU or wrong shipment going out. Third, you're not capturing the right weight, and the shipment is not being billed on weight, but maybe on a volume basis. And fourth, it's about the volume or the dimensions of the shipment, because these are the areas based on which the overall billing happens from one client to another. So this concept of smart alert is basically that whenever any shipment is being transacted from the dock, the first thing is the identification. So how do we identify? Each of these shipments have a unique barcode onto it. So these barcodes are first then scanned. They are compared against a picking list or a ship out list or a DO. And then it is checked whether it is as per the configuration required or is it as per the right quantity. If not, the system has the ability to even reject that shipment out there and there rather than it leaving the warehouse. So this is the way you first have a control on the count and the SKU or the shipment variety that needs to be shipped out. And such alerts. So how do we try to analyze this data? From a certain dock, you might be getting this data saying that in a day, we are seeing that these alerts of reject are going up and up, which means that either the picker is not trained or there are some instances which have happened, or there needs to be a much more thorough investigation in the people who are operating the dock out there, why this reject ratio is very high. Second thing is to bring in complete transparency in terms of either to bill to the customer based on weight or on volume. So both these parameters, we are now being able to capture this thing at the dock itself with the help of smart systems. So in that case, if a shipment is bulky, but it is very light in weight, in that case, the volume is being taken as a top priority or upper hand, and then it's being billed. This is the whole point, is to bring in transparency, and no one is making a loss, either the consignee or the person who's the customer. So this is how we have systems to capture all these four parameters and then bring in transparency data and then analyze where we need to improve the systems. So yes, smart alerts indeed is extremely important and crucial at the docks for reducing pilferage and revenue leakages or loss.
Thanks, Vinay. That was really helpful. Yeah. One other area which is also when we talk about smart alerts, there's another area. Maybe I think I'll touch your brains, AJ. This is actually a very good question from audience as well. How is paperless technology? So the question is this, right? So do we have any paperless technology from a shipment to a delivery of stock? Is it there, especially to avoid multiple handling as well? And how do we kind of eradicate some of the handling complexity, right? So is it there, or is it going to come in future, or where are we today? Maybe would be helpful to get your thoughts, AJ.
Yeah, so I'll see what I can do. Not a really expert in the process flow, but I don't think there is, at least at this point of time, there is any paperless technology that exists right now. Just because I think one of the panelists said itself, right? Because there is so much. I think it was Prashant. He said there's so many silos inside a general supply chain, right? It's just generally difficult to have a paperless process where you send something from shipment to delivery of stocks. A lot of different companies are doing it. So there is a new breed of ERP companies. I don't know if you've heard about it, but companies like Kinaxis, etc., that they are coming in and they're trying to build this paperless system of end-to-end, let's say, shipment to stock thing, right? And they are, again, their technology exists at this point of time. I think the only thing that is actually causing them or preventing them to have an end-to-end paperless flow is silos, right? Either silos on your inside your own factory, suppliers, outbound, inbound. So that's, I think, the major problem. Technology in this case is not the barrier.
Yeah, no, very good, fantastic, right? But I mean, just to add a question to you, right? So today, it is not that everyone actually coming forward or coming in front line to kind of implement this, right? So the entire visibility. From your angle, from your experience, what are the factors? What are the real factors which is actually, like, prevents the industry to think about this? Wherever there are from a survey I read, right, 30-40% people, they want to go with the traditional setup and they are happy with that. I know they have to move to the next level, but what are the biggest factors you have seen and want to get thoughts quickly?
So by far the biggest factor is the customer of a customer demand visibility, right? That's the biggest factor. The end customer says, I want an SLA or delivery, and you have to deliver a certain SLA, otherwise there'll be fines, blah, blah, blah. So basically, this is not being driven by, at least as far as I know, this has been less driven by innovation and mostly driven by compulsion, right? And that is also in a way resulting in innovation, but the end customer is telling us or telling the manufacturers, give me things on time. right? And this starts from even consumers telling car manufacturers, tell me when will I get my car? Don't give me a 40, 60, 90-day waiting period, give me an actual period, to all the way to hospitals and retail stores telling their suppliers that I want things on time. So that by far is the major thing. The second thing is COVID, right? Ever since COVID has happened, believe me, I've seen it personally, more people have jumped on the shipment visibility bandwagon, not because it's a trending hashtag, because now they've seen the problem that occurs when you don't have visibility. Because now there's supply constraint, things happen, containers get thrown in the sea, the Suez Canal thing happens. So people like Ashish, who've got a visibility dashboard, they get notified. But what about people who don't, right? Like then they start feeling the pinch of not having visibility. So for me, those are the two biggest things, multiple other things. But again, in the time that we have, this is what I'd like to highlight, right?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, AJ. Maybe we'll go with the next 2 minutes with that we can close our session, right? So one question to Prashant, right? So in this overall visibility of the supply chain, right? So the EV, the future of mobility also is expanding. That's why the electronic vehicles coming along, right? So maybe a quick rapid thought from your side, how this the use of EV taking place, and especially in the logistics transportation, and whether the real-time visibility is actually possible there as well, just to get your thoughts.
Right. So I would split the entire commercial EV vehicle segment into two. One is your last mile delivery for your short distances, and then there is heavy load, long lanes that is being serviced. So in most cases, we see there is a lot of adoption for your last mile deliveries in EV, and even e-commerce companies today have a lot of target that they want to achieve in terms of how much of their fleet or how much X percentage of fleet that they want to convert into electric vehicles. And today, we are also involved with a lot of startups that are currently in the process of converting diesel vehicles into electric vehicles just by changing their the battery packs, converting all removing the IC engine and then putting in an electric engine is what they're trying to do. So there is a lot of traction that we are seeing. And now that the entire passenger vehicle segment is picking up, Tesla coming in, Tata having their own infrastructure, the charging infrastructure being set up. So we'll definitely see a lot of traction in that space. And we'll see that even with long distance trucking, it will surely pick up in the times to come. And we will see a lot of traction in that space as well. But today we see mostly it is in the short term and very short distance shipments where there is a lot of tractions for EVs, and there are targets that companies are trying to achieve in that space. So that way, yes. And with long distance, I think the future will have more answers for us in that space as our charging infrastructure improves. And that's where we are with the EV.
Thanks, Prashant. Maybe the last question to Arshal, right? So I think I know, right? So the typical normal manufacturing industry, we are talking about, the 3-day order fill rate and 7-day order fill rate and so on and so forth. But today you're doing a next hour delivery, same day delivery, you are actually kind of looking at, very shorter term with a shorter delivery term, right? So the timeline is actually very strict for you, and is very dynamic as well, right? So what are the challenges you have, and especially the visibility is actually happening there, or is helping there? Just to maybe I think have an end thought from you.
See, today same-day deliveries or next-day deliveries are actually these are highly time-sensitive deliveries, and it's the need of the hour. People want shipments as good as the next maybe half an hour's time, which I don't know what the future will look like. It would look like a food delivery. I'm going to go order apparel online, and I expect it to be delivered in 1 hour. Wow, that would happen. That's what we're heading for. So there are some challenges across this, because normally when we operate or when we order food online, it's ordered, we know it's being processed, it's brought back. But when we speak about other segments or maybe apparels, living medicines across, there's a defined cutoff, and there are different critical steps which one has to follow, which is still lacking. Where visibility would take part, but that segment to some extent is still unorganized. Then when I say next day deliveries, with the current COVID situation, the airlines are not operating to their 100%. There is frequent disruption there. Fluctuating air cargo capacity has been a daily issue for logistics player. That's a major disruption for next day delivery. But for same day deliveries, it's going to be the JIT products which are going to go. We are bringing dark stores today where uh, uh, going forward, I look this at there would be deliveries as a slotted deliveries for a day. So you order in the morning 9, get it by 12, order by 12, get it by 3, order by 3, get it by 6. This is what we are looking for. There's one more point I would like to speak about here is when we all spoke about the visibility factor. I think the most important part is we have seen greatest customer satisfaction when a real-time visibility is given. It's nothing I can see in a layman terms. It's about a transparency to a end consumer of how his product is reaching him. That gives a greater customer satisfaction. That's what I see.
No, I think it's a so beyond a satisfaction, it's customer experience, as you rightly said, right? So that's the customer centricity is also another important topic, which is actually a third session, which is going to come along as you connecting the dots to the third session now. Thanks. That's very important. Maybe last 30-second level, Ashish, I think you actually have some experience in this paperless technology, right? So maybe on a 30-second level, if you could actually give some thoughts, would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Ganesh. So first example is an internal Unilever example. 10 years back when I was leading supply chain for modern trade business, we integrated with the Reliance Retail through EDI technology for a paperless purchase order generation, GRN, ASN. And that process has still, of course, it was a very painful job to do that time with so many firewall things and everything, but it has been working for the last 10 years. So no touch, no papers being transferred between the two companies. And the second one, which is even more inspirational in my view, was a packing unit of ACC Cements near Baddi, called ACL, if I remember the name correctly. We had gone there for a visit. This was an example of relevant time visibility and paperless together. This plant was packing some 70-80 trucks, or they were delivering 70-80 trucks worth of, or probably more, worth of cement. And for them, the rotation of vehicle is everything, because it is such a tight margin business. They have deployed very simple RFID tag technology. So all the 400, 500 trucks that they were there were all tagged with RFID worth 150 rupees. This entire packing plant was enabled with RFID readers. So from the time the truck is 2 kilometers away, which is on the highway, there is an RFID tag. So it tells that this truck is 2 kilometers away. Then the entire system starts to plan where this truck should come in, whether there's a place right now to go to bagging directly, or should wait in the yard. The truck comes to the gate. At the gate, the RFID is read and the truck is told what to do, whether to enter the plant or to wait outside. Even in the waiting area, the same thing happens. Once it enters the plant, again, RFID tags tells us, that takes the weight of the truck, the empty weight of the truck, and directs it to a packing or a bagging location. From there, again, it comes out. It just works so seamlessly, no paper involved except for the invoice that is printed at the gate and signed. And the entire plant of some obscene capacity is run by 7 people in 2 shifts and handling hundreds of trucks every day. This happened in India in 2002, 2003, and at a very small cost. So the point again is that what is the business case? You never necessarily need a very high technology all the time. Sometimes simple solutions can be formed if you're clear with the problem definition.
So well said. Well said.
No,
thanks a lot. Thanks for the fantastic ending example. I think brilliant discussion, right? I know it's not an easy topic and it's a very wide, but I think definitely the audience would have actually got some kind of a glimpse how this is happening, why this is important, and what are the ways in which you can execute, and what are the areas in which you have to cover. I mean, a lot of terminology has evolved today, right? Especially from we started with the real time to a relevant time. You should IP it, Ashish. And service, definitely, I think service orientation as a profit. Dr. Rahul, I think that was fantastic. And we also talked about in terms of how we can think through a people process technology from Prashant. And AJ, I think you really explained about the location analytics, how and why we can start. Actually, you actually also clearly given a customer experience is one of the important elements. So, and Binay, from your side, I think it was very clear where how this automation technology step back and think through to the next level, right? So it's a very valid and relevant experience for our audience to kind of take a journey in this supply chain visibility. Fantastic. Thanks for the time. And I know we overshoot of like 6-7 minutes, but Believe this is a real value add for all the audience, and it was a great learning for me as well. Hats off to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thank you
Sierra,
very much.
Dr. Bhanumati.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. everyone.
Thanks. Bye bye. See you. I think in the next 5 minutes, probably you go for a next session, which is customer centricity, which is also a very vital topic. All the very best to the audience. Yeah. Thank you.